Do you think you'd murder me, Joe?
Yes.
That's gruesome, Joe. That's horrible.
Yes, it is.
And what happened that ended up with your being here in the hospital?
The psychiatrist decided that this was the situation for me.
Did he tell you why?
No, the psychiatrist did not.
Has anybody told you why?
No.
Have you any idea why?
Yes.
And what is that?
I'm not completely like other people.
What do you mean by that?
People dislike me because I am not completely like them.
And in what way are you different?
I sit differently when I play the piano, and when I'm away from the piano I occasionally look differently from other people. And this has caused dislike from people.
They dislike you because you sit differently at the piano?
Yes.
What way do you sit at the piano that people would dislike you?
I cannot describe an illustration. As soon as I express the belief that I do not belong in this hospital, which is a mental hospital, then those who dislike me want to find a worse place for me.
Stéphane Bourgoin says he felt that it was someone who was evil, because in his eyes you don't exist. The other person doesn't exist. The other person is denied their individuality and their humanity. This is a case of perversion that's rarely seen, thank God.
What are you accused of?
Well, I was originally accused of killing 34 women, but nobody has ever managed to come up with 34 names, jurisdictions, or anything else. It's a false accusation.
And what is your conviction?
I was convicted of killing 2 in Fort Pierce. I was never shown to be at the crime scene. There was never any link between me and the people that were killed, except the testimony of the mother of one of them.
I met Gerard Schaefer when he was an applicant for a position as a deputy sheriff. At that particular time, he was a police officer in Wilton Manors, Florida, in Broward County. And he was looking for a job as a deputy sheriff in another county. And at the time, he had what's been described as an apple-cheeked, wholesome appearance. Could be very pleasant, almost charismatic in the way he would deal with people. But later, we began to see that there was a different face underneath that facade. Telephone rings, my wife calls me in, I go to the telephone, and it's Schaefer. And he says, "You are really going to be mad at me. I really did something stupid." And I said, "Well, tell me what's going on." He says, "Well, yesterday when I was working, there were these 2 girls, teenage girls, hitchhiking, and I stopped to talk to them and gave them a ride and tried to impress upon them how dangerous it was for young girls to hitchhike. There were a lot of problems they could get into, trouble, bad things that could happen to them." And they just laughed at it and didn't take me seriously, so I arranged to meet them today, and I was going to put a scare into them and show them, convince them that it's dangerous so that nothing would happen to them later if they would do what I said. And he said he took them into the woods and then told them he was going to sell them into slavery. And then he said to scare them, he left them there to sit for a while, and then he was going to come back and let them loose. When he came back, they were gone. They had managed to get loose from the ropes.
He smiled. He had a smirk on his face.
It was such a mixture, such a hodgepodge of different types of deviants.
During the many hours of interview with Gerard Schaefer, he was always full of smiles, very charming, but I knew I was in front of the darkest of any abyss, in front of Gerard Schaefer.
Then they began to get frightened when he tied them up and then drove off.
First, we realized we might have a murderer. Some old man was going through the underbrush looking for tin cans, aluminum cans, and he found a bone that he thought might be human. So the police went there and searched the area and found the remains of 2 people, 2 humans.
All the time, these murders?
Well, I wouldn't say all the time. I took the, like, it's a tribute